Death row. Why does it exist? For thousands of years, death penalty have been conducted. Is it needed? That's the question. That's the human factor. This is a two-part series called Stay of Execution. Today, we're going to speak with an individual that knows a little about this subject. Tell me a little bit about your Marine Corps background.
Well, I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1964 while I was still a student at Northeast High School in Philadelphia. Of course, I started at Paris Island for recruit training.
Okay.
I was assigned to the 1st Battalion and 1st Marine Regiment, Camp Carlton, California. And we landed in Vietnam as part of Battalion Landing Team 1-1 in 1965.
Well, let me ask you a question before that. I know you joined the Marine Corps at an early age, but what did you do before that? What kind of person were you?
I was a legitimate kid. I mean, never had any problems as a juvenile. I was in the Boy Scouts for 7 years.
Okay.
I was an Eagle Scout. And it was a normal middle-class upbringing.
Sounds good. So now, did you see any action while you were serving?
Well, I served with the 1st Marine Division in Vietnam, which did see a lot of action. My battalion saw a lot more action than most, but there was a lot of guys over there that saw a lot more than me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you told me about a story when you were going over it. They were just finishing and coming back. And
we were aboard ship,
uh-huh.
APA 195, off of Midway, and we got word that 3rd Marine Regiment killed 900 VC down by Chulai. We all got mad.
Oh.
We thought they were going to kill them all before we got there.
Oh my goodness.
And we'd have to turn around and go back. That was 1965.
Okay, so it seemed like you had some time in service, so you've seen a lot of things on ship. So, like, what drove you away from the service?
Well, Vietnam, basically, and I couldn't wait to get in the Marine Corps, but then it wasn't popular to stay in. So, just as anxious as I was to get in, I was just as anxious to get out and make a lot of money.
So here's a question. Now, after the service, I know a lot of things happen and you end up in the state pen. So how did you end up there?
Well, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I took flight lessons down in Miami Beach to become a pilot. But the pilot that was teaching me to fly was only making minimum wage and had 4,000 hours in the air, had a degree in engineering, which I was sure I was never a match. The North Koreans captured an intelligence ship, the Pueblo, at the time, and I was afraid that they would bring me back in the Marines and send me to Korea. I don't like cold weather.
Okay.
So I attempted to re-enlist under the terms of getting my stripes back. I was a sergeant when I got out, and sent me back to Vietnam. Well, since I'd been out over 6 months, I would not go back as a sergeant, I'd go back as a PFC.
Okay.
So I changed my mind and didn't go in. I went in the construction business and became a contractor. And I had times 20 and 30 men working for me pouring concrete. I was pouring concrete in Philadelphia, South Jersey, Fort Lauderdale, and Pompano Beach. But the main problem I had was getting paid from a lot of home builders. And perhaps I went a little too far a couple times, and that led me into a new direction. Started collecting bad debts. I started hanging out with different types of people, and the money was fast and easy.
Fast and easy.
And instead of pouring concrete, I was out drinking all night in Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach. I had an interest in a bar down there, and that was a lot more fun and a lot more lucrative than the concrete business.
So things happen, and
within 10 years, I was facing a charge of first-degree murder, a suspect in numerous mob-related homicides. I was went to trial on one. I was acquitted of murder, but convicted on lesser charges. They got me my first sentence of 5 to 10 years. Now, once you're in prison, it's easy getting in, but it's quite a different story getting out.
I see.
So over the next 10 years, the government kept coming up with new charges and kept me in for 14 years.
14 years.
14 years.
Oh my goodness.
8 years in Pennsylvania and 6 years with the government.
So when were you finally released from prison?
January '96.
You have a very strong opinion about the death penalty, and I want to go into some of those questions with you. Like, what do you think about the death penalty?
Well, number one, it doesn't work, and it's not given equally among everybody in the country. You'll never see a wealthy family member sentenced to die in this country, or actually the death penalty actually carried out. There was a lawyer in Delaware, Capano, who was sentenced to die. It was subsequently overturned. But if you get a minority defendant that doesn't have any money, is not that good looking, and has no way to defend himself, can hardly speak English, he has no shot in the world. If he's charged with a first-degree murder, 9 out of 10 times he's going to be sentenced to die, and nobody cares.
Now, you've seen this stuff that you're talking about. You've seen this happen, and
over and over again. Or prosecutors and police officers will get overzealous and they'll prosecute any likely defendant if they think that they can obtain a guilty verdict. It happened with my best friend at the time. He was arrested on 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was convicted. He was sentenced to die on 2 counts of first-degree murder, even though the police involved in the investigation and the prosecutors knew he had nothing to do with it, but they felt they could convict him. He subsequently spent 3 years on death row, and he was released on a Saturday from Graterford State Prison on bail. And the district attorney, Ed Randell, refused to re-prosecute him. He was awarded, the jury awarded him $4.5 million when he sued the city of Philadelphia, and the judge reversed it back to $1.9 million.
Oh my goodness.
And there's 2 other cases that I'm aware of in Pennsylvania. Principal of Upper Merion High School, Jay Smith. He was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder. That was subsequently overturned, and he was released from death row. Nick Yaris was another one, spent 18 years on death row, and DNA finally cleared him. So how many people have to die that may not be guilty?
When we come back, more with my guest on The Human Factor. What would you do to change the death row penalty?
If they were positive that the defendant was guilty, absolutely beyond a reasonable doubt, rather than killing him, he should be locked away by himself, as they do in the Supermax Penitentiary in Florence, Colorado. And no contact with inmates, no family contact. And in my opinion, being locked away by yourself for 20, 30, 40 years is a lot worse than dying. The only people the death penalty hurts is the family.
The family.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Being executed is like suicide.
Yeah.
They'd rather be, and people I was involved with, they would rather be dead than spend 20, 30 years.
Right.
For instance, this guy Massawi that was just convicted for the World Trade Center bombing. Guaranteed he would rather be dead as a martyr than be spending his life the way he's spending it right now in Colorado. He doesn't even know what direction east is in.
Right.
To pray.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So to me, if you want your revenge, locking somebody away with no human contact is a lot worse than executing them.
So here's the good question. Why do you think people want the death penalty to stand? I mean,
revenge, pure and simple. And they're not aware. Everybody has, I guess they all have different opinions. Some think it's the best country in the world, and if we execute a few wrong people, that's okay, as long as the system continues to work. But they don't realize that they think some of these prisons are like country clubs. And granted, the federal prison camps are like country clubs, but the maximum security penitentiaries aren't anything but. And they're just not aware.
So let's talk about the innocent people on death row. Now, of course, there are people who've committed crimes, very heinous crimes. They've gotten to death row, served on death row 10 years plus.
Right.
And then there are people that, claim innocence. Where would it, we're talking about guilty and innocent. What do you think we need to do to make sure that we prosecute the guilty and we prosecute it? Where's that line?
Well, obviously, a confession is ironclad. I personally think people like Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, they deserve to die. Child molesters, they deserve to die. But you just can't. They can't administer a death penalty equally among everybody in this country. A wealthy white man should be executed just as quick as a poor black man. District attorneys in the city and other law enforcement persons said I didn't belong on the street, it could not be rehabilitated, but yet I've been out of prison for 11 years and taking care of my parents and working for a living. My elderly parents are working for a living and paying taxes.
So what should happen to the district attorneys, you say?
Are we on?
We're rolling.
Oh.
That's okay.
Well, I personally think prosecutors and judges alike should be held accountable. If they know or suspect that a person is innocent, but yet they feel that they can get a conviction, they should be sentenced to the same length of time that they're trying to obtain a conviction for. There's plenty of prosecutors who will prosecute a case even though they know the person more than likely is not guilty, but they feel he's committed other crimes in the past, or they feel they can close the case and get a conviction. That's easy when a person doesn't have the funds to
the connections
or the connections or the funds to be acquitted.
Right. Well, let's go to another subject. I know you may be going to work on a book soon. You have any plans in the near future? Doing any movies or about your life?
A book is in the works right now, but
okay.
I think it's a little premature to discuss it.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I was mentioned in a book prior. The last chapter was devoted pretty much to myself and my two partners, Anthony Mad Dog DePasquale and Neil Ferber. Neil Ferber is the one that spent 3 years on death row.
Right.
The district attorney at the time, Ed Rendell, who became mayor of Philadelphia, is now the governor of the state, didn't feel I ever belonged on the street again. I could never be a productive citizen. And he mentions such in the book. But it should be noted that I have been on the street for 11 years without any more contact with the police, working for a living and taking care of my elderly parents.
Right.
So people can change.
Yeah, they sure can. So, the legal system as a whole, what would you do? Do you think
I would hold prosecutors and judges more accountable. A lot of times judges are supposed to be impartial, but they're not. They can be interchangeable with prosecutors. You can put the prosecutor up in the judge's stand, and the judge can take over the prosecution.
Right. Okay.
They always favor the prosecution. And like I said before, if they knowingly bring somebody to trial that they think that they can get a conviction for, although he may or may not be guilty, is wrong, and they should be held accountable.
So one more question for you. The future. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see the justice system? Where would you see the justice system in 10 years? Give me an overview of what you want to see happen. We'll be right back with the human factor. Give me an overview of what you want to see happen.
This country's in trouble. It's become a new industry, the prison system. There's private companies running prisons. I can't I can't see them fixing it at all. Pennsylvania's system, for one, is so overcrowded. It's just come under the control of the courts again in a federal lawsuit. Now they want to reopen Western State Penitentiary, which they closed 5 years ago because they're running out of bed space.
Mm.
It's ridiculous. There's got to be alternatives to this. They're violating people on parole for changing their address, for possession of small amounts of marijuana. It just doesn't make sense.
So the death row also causes a controversy. I mean, do you think in 10 years that's going to be abolished?
I think it'll be abolished. People have a lot more common sense than to let that go on. I believe in Chicago, I don't know how many people they released from death row that were discovered by DNA to be not guilty of the charges they were charged with. And how many people in the past before DNA were actually executed and not guilty. I mean, years ago, blacks down south were executed for raping a white woman. That's changed. So this has got to change. You either got to try everybody the same, white, black, Spanish, and you're going to execute them quick, or you're going to do away with it.
If the Justice of the Peace, the Supreme Court, was sitting in front of you right now, and they say, Mr. Salzberg, what would you do? I'm giving you the power to do anything you need to do with the justice system right now. What would you do?
First thing I'd do, I would abolish the death penalty. As much as I believe certain people deserve to be executed, it's not the answer. If you believe in revenge, it's a lot more punishment to be kept locked in a cell by yourself for the rest of your life than being executed. That's releasing somebody from a long, boring life. And again, I would I'd pass a law where the prosecutors would be held accountable for prosecuting people that they know are not guilty or may not be guilty.
Okay.
Or withholding exculpatory evidence.
Do you think death row would deter crime?
No, no way. Nobody commits a crime thinking they're getting caught and being punished. Everybody believes they're going to get away with it, but very few people do. So as far as deterring crime, jail doesn't deter crime, death penalty doesn't deter crime. If somebody's intent on hurting someone, they're going to do it.
Now, in the state of Florida, I hear that they're abolishing the death penalty. Why do you think that's happening right now?
Probably because they realize they've executed a lot of innocent people. Florida, Texas, Louisiana, they have no problem giving out the death penalty. They don't really care if the person is guilty or innocent.
What if I told you that there is a well-established person in our government that said that the killing of one innocent justifies?
That's okay. How would he feel if it was his mother, father, or brother?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the mentality. The strange thing is, when I was in the Marines, I felt the same way. I was an ultra-conservative. That's the mentality of a U.S. Marine. But after the Marine Corps and after my passage in life, I realized it's not the way.
It's not the way.
How can you punish them? How can you execute somebody, kill somebody for killing somebody else? It doesn't make sense.
Do you think we're living in a discard society?
Yes, I do, absolutely. I get a kick out of people that say they believe in the death penalty and that people should be executed, but they've never in fact killed anybody in their life. And all the experience I've had, you can commit a lot of crimes to a lot of people, and the people you commit these crimes with are not upset about it until you get involved with murder. Yeah, everybody says these people have to die, but they're going to physically kill these people.
Yeah, easier for someone else.
Yeah,
Exactly. Easier for someone else.
Easier for to say, yeah, kill this, let somebody else do my killing for me.
Right.
And everybody says they'll kill until they actually have to kill somebody.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, it's a different story.
If it has something to do with the death penalty, that's what I'm trying to ask.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I've always wondered, there's a conflict in my mind, people that are pro-death penalty
Right.
and pro-war to
Right.
solve problems, and yet they're anti-abortion. They're pro-life.
Right.
Where does that come from? I'm just curious if you had any insight into why people
Think that way.
take a position of pro-death penalty, pro-war, but pro-life and anti-abortion. Not that I'm for or against abortion, I'm actually against it, but
Right.
why would someone take a position where it's okay to kill people, but it's not okay to kill?
Because it seems kind of contradictory.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, of course it's
Yeah,
contradictory, but life's contradictory. I don't think people really think these issues out that well. All they think about is they shouldn't kill children, or they shouldn't hurt women.
Mm-hmm.
But war is a different situation, and killing people that allegedly kill other people shouldn't be tolerated.
As you just witnessed, my guest has his own opinion about death row. Stay tuned for our next week's show, when we're going to get more in depth into the issues of death row and death penalty. I'll see you next time on The Human Factor.
You can go into how the government teaches soldiers or Marines